I didn't know blood could look so black under fluorescent lights. It pooled across the convenience store floor in a slow, lazy spread, thick and dark as motor oil. I stood frozen behind the chip aisle, one hand still gripping a bag of salt and vinegar chips I'd never pay for now, watching a man in an expensive suit bleed out 3 feet from the Slurpee machine. The shooter was gone. The cashier was gone. The security camera blinked uselessly in the corner, its red light dead. I should have run. But my legs had turned to concrete, and my lungs had forgotten how to pull air, and all I could do was stare at the way his fingers twitched against the linoleum. Once. Twice. Then nothing. The bell above the door chimed. My heart stopped. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. The kind of walk that didn't rush because it didn't need to. I pressed myself against the shelves, chips crinkling against my chest, and tried to remember how to breathe without making sound. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Someone had left a radio playing behind the counter. A love song, absurdly gentle, bleeding into the chemical smell of cleaning products and death. The footsteps stopped. "You can come out now." The voice was low, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't ask twice. I didn't move. "I can see your shadow on the floor." A pause. "And I can hear your heartbeat from here." Impossible. He was bluffing, but something in his tone, something dark and certain, made me believe him anyway. I stepped out slowly, the bag of chips falling from my numb fingers. It hit the ground with a sound too loud for the moment, and I flinched. He stood in the center of the store like he owned it. Black suit, no tie, shirt unbuttoned just enough to show the hollow of his throat. Dark hair pushed back from a face that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so cold. His hands were in his pockets, casual, unbothered, like he hadn't just walked into a crime scene. But it was his eyes that stopped me. Dark, unreadable, fixed on me with an intensity that felt physical. "Did you see who did this?" His tone was almost conversational. I shook my head. Words had abandoned me. He tilted his head slightly, studying me the way a wolf might study wounded prey, deciding whether it was worth the chase. "You're a terrible liar." My voice cracked. I tried again. "I didn't see his face. He wore a mask." "But you saw something." It wasn't a question. I swallowed hard. A tattoo, on his wrist. Some kind of snake. Or dragon. I don't know. His expression didn't change, but something shifted in the air between us. The temperature seemed to drop. "What's your name?" "Why?" The word came out sharper than I intended. Fear turning to something defensive. Something that wanted to push back against the wrongness of this entire night. The corner of his mouth lifted. Not quite a smile. "Because I need to know what to call you when I explain why you can't talk to the police." My stomach dropped. "I have to report this. There's a dead man on the floor. Who will be gone in 10 minutes. He checked his watch, a flash of silver against his wrist. "Along with any evidence this happened. You can't just—" "I can." He took a step closer, and I took one back, my spine hitting the shelf behind me. "And you're going to let me." "Why would I do that?" He stopped an arm's length away, close enough that I could smell him. Something expensive and dark, cedar and smoke. Close enough that I could see the small scar cutting through his left eyebrow. Close enough that my body registered him as both threat and something else entirely. Something that made my pulse spike for reasons I didn't want to examine. Because the man who did this? His voice dropped lower, almost gentle. He didn't just kill my associate. He sent a message. And messages in my world are written in blood. His eyes held mine, unblinking. "If he finds out there was a witness..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "So what am I supposed to do?" My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "Pretend this didn't happen. No. He reached into his jacket, and I tensed, but he only pulled out a business card. Matte black with a single phone number embossed in silver. He held it out. You're going to take this. And when the nightmares start, when you can't sleep because you keep seeing his face, you're going to call me. I stared at the card. Why would you care if I have nightmares? Something flickered across his face, too fast to read. Because every man who hurt you will disappear by morning. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with promise and threat. I don't even know you, I whispered. Dante. He pressed the card into my hand, his fingers warm against my cold skin. My name is Dante. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. He stepped back, already moving toward the door. They'll be here in 2 minutes. You were in the bathroom. You heard shots. You came out and found him. His hand touched the door handle. That's all you know. Wait! He paused, looking back over his shoulder. What if I don't call you? The look he gave me was ancient and knowing. You will. Then he was gone, disappearing into the November rain like smoke, leaving me alone with a dead man and a business card that felt like a lit fuse burning down in my palm. The sirens screamed closer. I looked down at the card, then at the spreading darkness on the floor, then at my own reflection in the store window, pale and shocked and somehow already changed. I slipped the card into my pocket, and when the police arrived, I lied exactly the way he told me to. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the blood, the twitching fingers. The way the fluorescent lights had buzzed overhead like mechanical flies drawn to death. But worse than that, worse than the body, worse than the lies I'd told the detective with the kind eyes who'd offered me coffee and a trauma counselor's number, was the memory of Dante's voice. Every man who hurt you will disappear by morning. I sat on my apartment floor at 3 a.m., back against the couch, the black business card turning over and over in my hands. No name, no company. Just a phone number embossed in silver that caught the streetlight coming through my window. Who was he? What kind of man walked into a murder scene like he was checking his dry cleaning? My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Unknown number. My heart kicked against my ribs as I reached for it. Did you throw the card away yet? I stared at the screen, then at the card in my other hand. How did you get my number? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. I know things. It's what keeps people alive. My fingers trembled as I typed. People or yourself? Both. I should have blocked him, should have deleted the message and burned the card and pretended that none of this had happened. But instead I asked, who was he? The dead man. The response came immediately this time. Someone who forgot the rules. What rules? The ones that keep the city from eating itself alive. I pulled my knees to my chest, phone gripped tight enough to hurt. And you enforce these rules? Among other things? Like making witnesses lie to the police? Like keeping witnesses alive? The words sat heavy on the screen. Outside, a siren wailed past, different from last night's, but close enough to make my stomach clench. You still haven't called. His next message arrived before I could respond. Why? Because I didn't want to need him. Because something about his certainty terrified me more than the murder itself. Because when he'd looked at me in that convenience store, I'd felt seen in a way that made me want to run and stay in equal measure. I typed and deleted 4 different responses before settling on. Because I don't know what calling you means. The 3 dots pulsed for a long time. It means you're smart enough to know you're in over your head. Am I? In over my head? Yes. The single word landed like a stone in dark water. My hands were shaking now. Because of what I saw? Because of what you saw? Who you saw? And because the man with the snake tattoo is very good at finding loose ends. Cold flooded through me. You said he wouldn't know about me. I said I'd handle it. I am. But that doesn't mean you're safe walking around alone at midnight buying chips like nothing happened. I looked at the timestamp on our conversation. 3:47 a.m. How do you know what time I buy chips? The response was immediate. Look out your window. My breath stopped. Slowly, so slowly, I stood and moved to the window. 4 stories down, parked under the broken streetlight, sat a black car. Expensive, European. The kind I'd never be able to afford even if I saved for 10 years. I couldn't see through the tinted windows, but I knew. My phone buzzed again. I told you, I know things. You're watching me. My fingers flew across the screen, anger cutting through fear. That's not protection. That's stalking. It's keeping you alive. There's a difference. Is there? Ask me again when someone tries to break into your apartment. My blood went cold. What? Tomorrow night. Maybe the night after. They'll want to know what you told the police. What you saw. Whether you're a problem that needs solving. I backed away from the window, heart hammering. You can't know that. I know the man who'll send them. I know how he thinks. And I know he doesn't leave witnesses unless they're useful. Or dead. The apartment suddenly felt too small. Too exposed. Every shadow held threat. Every creak of the building settling sounded like footsteps. So what am I supposed to do? Call me. Use the card. And then what? You make me disappear too? The 3 dots pulsed for what felt like forever. No, I make you safe. Something in those 4 words, the simplicity, the certainty, cracked something open in my chest. Why? I typed. Why do you care? This time, the wait was longer. Long enough that I thought he wouldn't answer. Long enough that I started to wonder if I'd pushed too far, asked the wrong question. Finally, because you looked at me like I was still human. The words sat on my screen, stark and honest, and somehow more intimate than anything else that had passed between us. Most people don't. Most people look at me and see a wolf. I thought about the way he'd moved through that store, the cold control, the casual certainty, the underlying violence held perfectly in check. Maybe they're not wrong. They're not. But you looked anyway. My throat tightened. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know what it meant that he'd noticed. That it mattered. Before I could respond, another message came through. Get some sleep. I'll be here if you need me. You're really going to sit out there all night? Yes. Why? Because you haven't called yet. Which means you're still deciding whether to trust me. He was right. I was. And until you do, he continued, I'll make sure you survive long enough to make that choice. I looked back at the window. The car sat motionless in the darkness, and somewhere inside it, a man I'd met for 5 minutes was guarding my sleep like it mattered. Like I mattered. I should have been more afraid. Instead, I pulled a blanket around my shoulders, curled up on the couch where I could see the street, and finally, closed my eyes. The last thing I saw before sleep took me was the black card on my coffee table, its silver number catching the light like a promise. Or a trap. I woke to sunlight and the smell of coffee. My apartment didn't smell like coffee. I couldn't afford the good kind, and the instant stuff I kept in the cupboard smelled like burnt regret. I sat up too fast, blanket falling away, and found him standing in my kitchen. Dante. In my apartment, making coffee like he owned the place. Get out. The words came out rough with sleep and fear. Right now. He didn't turn around, just continued pouring dark liquid into my only clean mug, the chipped one with the faded bookstore logo. Your locks are embarrassingly easy to pick. That doesn't give you the right to. Someone already tried. He finally looked at me, and his expression was grave. 3 a.m. I convinced them to leave. The way he said convinced made my stomach drop. Convinced how? Does it matter? Yes. I stood, aware suddenly of my sleep shirt and bare legs, aware of how small my apartment felt with him in it. It matters to me. Something flickered in his eyes. Approval, maybe, or surprise. He set the coffee pot down and turned to face me fully. In the morning light, I could see details I'd missed before. The exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes. A fresh bruise darkening his left knuckles. The way his expensive suit was rumpled, like he'd slept in his car. Because he had. I broke his hand, Dante said quietly. Then I explained that touching what's mine comes with consequences. I'm not yours. No. He picked up the mug, crossed the small space between us, and held it out. But he doesn't know that. I took the coffee because my hands needed something to do that wasn't reaching for him or pushing him away. I couldn't decide which. The warmth bled through the ceramic into my palms. You can't keep doing this, I said. Following me. Breaking in. Fighting off whoever. I can. And I will. He leaned against my counter, arms crossed, and for the first time since I'd met him, he looked almost uncertain. Unless you want me to stop. The question hung between us, heavy with implications. I should have said yes. Should have told him to leave and never come back. Should have called the police, the real police, and reported everything. Instead, I asked, "What did you mean last night? When you said I looked at you like you were still human?" His jaw tightened. For a long moment, he didn't answer, just studied me with those dark, unreadable eyes. Then he pushed off the counter and closed the distance between us. Too close. Close enough that I had to tilt my head back to hold his gaze. Close enough that I could smell cedar and smoke and something copper underneath. Blood, probably, though I didn't want to think about whose. You want the truth? His voice dropped low, almost gentle. I've killed 17 men. I've broken bones and burned bridges and built an empire on fear and violence. I'm the thing parents warn their daughters about. He reached out slowly, giving me time to step back, which I didn't, and touched the side of my face. His thumb traced my cheekbone with devastating softness. But when you looked at me in that store, you didn't see a monster. You saw someone who could keep you safe. Maybe I was in shock, I whispered. Maybe. His thumb stilled against my skin. Or maybe you recognized something in me that I thought I'd buried. What? Someone who still remembers what it's like to need protection. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open inside me. I set the coffee mug on the table beside us, my hand shaking slightly. Who hurt you? The question escaped before I could stop it. His expression shuddered immediately. He dropped his hand and stepped back, and the loss of his warmth felt like winter rushing in. Everyone. The single word was flat, final. Eventually, Dante, I brought you something. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small box. Black velvet, the kind jewelry came in. He set it on my counter without ceremony. Open it. I stared at the box. If that's a tracking device, it's a choice. Slowly, I picked it up. The velvet was soft under my fingers as I lifted the lid. Inside sat a key. Simple. Silver. No tag. What does it open? An apartment. Downtown. Security. Doorman. Bulletproof windows. He watched my face carefully. Somewhere safe. My throat tightened. You bought me an apartment? I'm offering you one. There's a difference. Is there? I echoed his words from last night. The corner of his mouth lifted, not quite a smile, but close. Yes, one is ownership. The other is protection. I closed the box, the soft snap loud in the quiet kitchen. And what do you want in return? Nothing. People don't give away penthouses for nothing. I do. He moved toward the door, and panic flared in my chest. Irrational, unwanted. The address is engraved on the key. Move in today. Tonight. Whenever you're ready to stop pretending you feel safe here. He had his hand on the doorknob when I called out, Dante. He paused, looking back. The man last night. In the store. I gripped the velvet box. Did he have family? His expression went very still. A wife. 2 daughters. And they'll what? Just accept that he's gone? They'll accept the pension I'm providing them. His voice was quiet, almost sad. And they'll never know the truth about why he died. Which was? He stole from the wrong people. He knew the cost. I wanted to ask more, wanted to understand the rules of this dark world he inhabited. But he was already opening the door, already leaving. Dante. He stopped again. Thank you, for last night, for the coffee, for... I held up the box. For caring whether I'm safe. Something raw and unguarded crossed his face. I'll always care about that. Then he was gone, and I was alone with a key to a life I hadn't asked for and wasn't sure I wanted. I opened the box again, looked at the key, and started packing. The apartment was obscene. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Marble countertops. Furniture that probably cost more than I'd made in the last 5 years. A bathroom with a tub big enough to drown in. I stood in the center of the living room with my 2 duffel bags and felt like an imposter. My phone buzzed. How is it? I looked around at the excessive luxury, then down at my thrift store bags sitting on floors that gleamed like ice. Unnecessary. Safe. Same thing? In my world? Yes. I walked to the window, pressed my palm against the glass. The city sprawled below, thousands of lights, thousands of lives, and somewhere down there. People who wanted me dead for seeing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Why does the man with the snake tattoo care so much about one witness? The 3 dots pulsed for a long time. Because you're not just a witness. You're a statement. What does that mean? It means the man he killed was mine. And leaving you alive to tell the story makes him look weak. My breath fogged against the glass. So I'm a symbol. You're a complication. Complications get eliminated. I turned away from the window, suddenly needing walls closer, needing to feel less exposed. And you? What am I to you? The response didn't come for 3 full minutes. When it did, it was just one word. Mine. The possessiveness should have made me angry. Instead, it made something hot and dangerous coil in my stomach. I don't belong to anyone. I know. That's what makes you dangerous. Before I could respond, my phone rang. Not a text, an actual call. Unknown number, but I knew. I answered. There's food in the fridge, Dante said without preamble. His voice was different over the phone, closer somehow, more intimate. And wine, the good kind. I don't drink wine. You will tonight. That confident? That concerned. Something rustled in the background. Papers, maybe. I need you to do something for me. My hand tightened on the phone. What? Stay inside. Lock the doors. Don't answer for anyone except me. For how long? 24 hours, maybe more. His voice dropped. Things are moving faster than I anticipated. Fear spiked through me. What things? The man with the snake tattoo has a name. Konstantin Volkov. Russian syndicate. Very old blood, very long memory. A pause. He sent a message today. What kind of message? The kind written on a body. My knees went weak. I sat down hard on the leather couch that probably cost more than my car. Who? One of my men. They left him in front of my club with your description carved into his chest. The room tilted. They know what I look like? They know enough. The background noise changed. Wind, traffic. He was outside somewhere, moving. Which is why you stay inside. No exceptions. Dante. I mean it. The steel in his voice was absolute. You open that door for anyone but me, you die. Understand? Yes. Say it. I understand. Good girl. The words were soft, almost approving, and they shouldn't have affected me the way they did. I'll be there tonight. Here. Why? Because I'm not leaving you alone anymore. The line went dead. I sat in the too-perfect apartment and tried to process what he'd just said. A man was dead with my description carved into him. Russian syndicate. Messages written in flesh. This was insane. All of it. I should run. Should take what money I had and disappear into some small town where men like Dante and Constantine didn't exist. But I looked at my phone, at the black card I'd tucked into my wallet, at the key sitting on the marble counter, and I knew the truth. There was nowhere to run that Constantine wouldn't find me, and no one who could protect me except the man who'd already killed 17 people. He arrived at midnight. 3 sharp knocks, then his voice. It's me. I opened the door and forgot how to breathe. Blood. On his shirt, his hands, his face. Not his. The way he moved said he wasn't injured. But someone's. Dark and fresh and still wet in places. Jesus Christ, I whispered. He stepped inside, locked the door behind him with practiced efficiency, and met my eyes. I need your bathroom. I pointed mutely down the hall. He disappeared, and I heard water running. My hands were shaking as I went to the kitchen and poured 2 glasses of the wine I'd said I didn't drink. I downed one immediately and refilled it. When he emerged 15 minutes later, he'd washed the blood away, but his shirt was still ruined. He'd unbuttoned it, revealing a white undershirt beneath and bruises blooming across his ribs, purple and ugly. Dante? Constantine sent more men. He took the wine glass I held out, drained it in one swallow. They won't be sending reports back. You killed them. Yes. The simple honesty was somehow worse than a lie would have been. How many? 3. He set the glass down and looked at me with eyes that held something ancient and tired. Do you want me to leave? I'll understand if... No. The word came out too fast, too desperate. Stay. He studied my face. Even knowing what I am? Especially knowing what you are. I stepped closer, close enough to see the tension in his jaw, the way his hands curled into fists at his sides. Because right now, what you are is the only thing standing between me and a man who carves descriptions into corpses. Something shifted in his expression, relief, maybe, or gratitude. I'll take the couch. The bed is big enough for 2. His eyes darkened. That's not a good idea. Why not? Because I don't trust myself to stay on my side. The admission hung between us, raw and honest. Then don't, I whispered. He closed his eyes. You don't know what you're asking. I'm asking you to stay close, that's all. When he opened his eyes again, they held heat and hunger and something that looked like restraint breaking. Close, he repeated softly. That's all. But we both knew it was a lie. We didn't make it to the bedroom. Not because of what I'd feared, or maybe hoped, would happen, but because halfway down the hall, Dante stopped, pressed his hand against the wall, and said quietly, I can't. I turned back to find him standing there, head bowed, breathing like he'd run miles. Can't what? Pretend. He looked up and the exhaustion in his face was devastating. That I'm fine. That tonight didn't... He stopped. Started again. I told you I've killed 17 men. It's 20 now. The number hung in the air between us. Do you regret it? I asked. No. His honesty was brutal. But I'm not numb to it either. Not anymore. What changed? He looked at me then, really looked, and something in his expression made my chest ache. You did. I didn't know what to say to that. Didn't know how to hold the weight of being someone's conscience when I barely understood my own moral ground anymore. So instead, I took his hand. His knuckles were split, bruised, still tender from whatever violence he'd committed in my name. I led him to the couch, pushed him down gently, and sat beside him. Not touching, but close. Tell me something true, I said. Something that has nothing to do with blood or death or empires built on fear. He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, I wanted to be a doctor. I turned to stare at him. What? Before all this. Before my father died and I inherited his kingdom. A bitter smile touched his mouth. I wanted to save lives, not take them. What happened? Choice happened, or the lack of it. He leaned his head back against the couch, eyes on the ceiling. My father was killed when I was 19. Rival family. They made it look like an accident, but everyone knew. And in my world, you either claim your inheritance or someone else claims it for you. He paused, usually by killing you first. So you had to become this. I had to survive. Becoming this was just what survival looked like. I thought about the convenience store, the casual way he'd taken control, the certainty in his voice when he'd promised to make me safe. Do you ever wonder what you'd be like? I asked. If you'd gotten to choose? Every day? He turned his head to look at me, and the vulnerability in his eyes was almost unbearable. Do you? Choose what? This. Me. Whatever the hell this is becoming. My breath caught. I don't know what this is. Neither do I. He reached out slowly, giving me time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. His fingers lingered against my jaw. But I know I've never wanted to protect something the way I want to protect you. And I know that wanting it this badly makes you the most dangerous thing in my life. Because caring about someone is a weakness in your world. Because caring about you makes me willing to burn my world down if it keeps you safe. The words should have terrified me. Instead, they made something fierce and hot bloom in my chest. Dante! His phone buzzed. Then again, and again. He pulled it out, and I watched his expression go from soft to stone in seconds. What is it? Constantine. He stood, already moving toward the window, already transforming back into the dangerous man who'd walked into my life 3 days ago. He wants to meet. That's good, right? You can negotiate, end this. He wants to meet with you. My blood went cold. What? He's offering a trade. Dante's voice was flat, controlled, but I could hear the fury underneath. You give him information about what you saw, confirm it was his man who pulled the trigger, and he lets you live. And if I don't? He kills everyone I care about until I hand you over anyway. The apartment suddenly felt too small, the walls closing in. How many people is that? He looked at me, and something in his eyes made my heart stop. Right now? 1. The implications crashed over me. I stood on shaking legs. You can't let him do this. I won't. Then what? We run. He was already moving, pulling out his phone, typing rapidly. I have resources, safe houses, money. We can disappear for a while. Let things cool down. And your empire? Your people? Everything you've built? Doesn't matter. Yes, it does. I crossed to him, grabbed his arms, forced him to look at me. You can't just walk away from all of this because of me. Watch me. Dante, you don't understand. His hands came up to frame my face, and the intensity in his touch stole my breath. I have spent 15 years building something I never wanted, playing a role I hate, becoming someone I don't recognize in the mirror. And then you walked into my life. This impossible, stubborn woman who looked at me like I was worth saving, and suddenly none of it matters. That's not fair, I whispered. You can't put that on me. I'm not putting it on you. I'm telling you the truth. His thumb traced my cheekbone. You asked me what changed. This is what changed. You made me remember what it feels like to want something more than power. What do I make you want? He leaned his forehead against mine, close enough that I could feel his breath, warm and unsteady. Everything I can't have. The confession hung between us, heavy and irrevocable. Before I could respond, his phone rang. He pulled back, answered with a curt, "What?" I watched his face as he listened. Watched the color drain from it. When? A pause. Jesus Christ! He hung up and met my eyes, and what I saw there made my stomach drop. What happened? Constantine didn't wait for an answer. His voice was hollow. He just took his message public. There's a body on the steps of City Hall. He swallowed hard. It's wearing your jacket. The one I'd been wearing at the convenience store. The one I'd left in my old apartment. Oh God. He's telling me he knows where you've been, what you look like. That finding you is just a matter of time. Dante's hands were shaking. We have 12 hours. Maybe less. Before what? Before he burns this entire city down looking for you. I want to meet him. Dante's head snapped up from where he'd been pacing, phone pressed to his ear, orchestrating God knows what kind of evacuation or war plan. Absolutely not. He wants to talk to me. Let him. So he can put a bullet in your head the moment you confirm what he already knows? He ended the call without saying goodbye, his full attention laser-focused on me now. No. Then what's your plan? Run forever? Let him kill innocent people wearing my clothes? If that's what it takes. It's not sustainable, and you know it. I stood my ground even as he crossed the room toward me, all controlled violence and protective fury. Eventually he'll find me. Or you'll have to choose between protecting me and protecting everyone else in your life. I choose you. No hesitation. Every time. The certainty in his voice made my chest tight. You don't even know me. I know enough. He stopped inches away, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. I know you lied to the police to protect a stranger. I know you're standing here arguing with me instead of falling apart. I know you've had 100 chances to run, and you keep choosing to stay. Maybe I'm just stupid. You're terrified. There's a difference. His hand came up, hesitant, then cupped my cheek with devastating gentleness. And you're still here. Where else would I go? Anywhere I'm not. His thumb traced my lower lip, and I felt the touch everywhere. That would be the smart choice. I've never been good at those. Something dark and hungry flashed in his eyes. Neither have I. The air between us changed, thickened. His gaze dropped to my mouth and stayed there. Dante, I whispered. Tell me to stop. Stop what? Whatever I'm about to do that we'll both regret. But I didn't tell him to stop. And when he lowered his head, slowly enough that I could have pulled away, I rose up to meet him instead. The kiss was nothing like I expected. Soft, careful, like I was something precious that might break under too much pressure. His lips moved against mine with a restraint that made me ache, one hand cradling my face while the other settled at the small of my back, holding me close but not trapping me. I grabbed his shirt and pulled him closer, needing more. needing him to stop being so careful. He made a sound low in his throat, half groan, half warning, and deepened the kiss. Still controlled, still measured, but with heat underneath that promised violence and salvation in equal measure. When he pulled back, we were both breathing hard. "That was a mistake," he said, but he didn't let go. Felt pretty deliberate to me. The worst kind of mistake. Then. But his forehead dropped to mine, and his hands tightened on my waist. The kind I'll want to repeat. So repeat it. I can't. He stepped back, and the loss of his warmth felt like winter. Not when I'm about to ask you to do something that might get you killed. My stomach dropped. What? He ran a hand through his hair, suddenly looking more human than I'd ever seen him. Uncertain, almost afraid. I have a plan. It's risky and probably insane, but it's the only way to end this without running forever. Tell me. You meet with Constantine, exactly like he wants. I thought you said, but not alone. He was already moving, pulling out his phone again, typing rapidly. And not to confirm anything, to offer him something better. What could I possibly offer a Russian mob boss? Me. He looked up, and his expression was absolutely serious. You tell him you'll testify. In court. Public record. You'll identify his shooter, put his organization at risk of federal investigation. He paused. Unless he's willing to negotiate directly with me. A truce. His territory stays his, mine stays mine, and the murder gets buried as gang violence. No witnesses, no investigation. And he'll believe I'd actually testify? He'll believe I'd let you. Dante's jaw tightened. Because he knows I don't bluff about witnesses, and he knows a federal case would hurt him more than it would hurt me. I thought it through. So I'm bait. You're leverage. Same thing. No. He crossed back to me, gripped my shoulders. Bait gets sacrificed. Leverage gets protected at all costs. I'll have men surrounding that meeting. The best I have. Constantine won't be able to breathe without me knowing about it. And if something goes wrong, his hands tightened. Nothing will go wrong. You can't promise that. Then I promise this. If he touches you, I will burn his empire to ash. If he hurts you, I will make his death last days. If he kills you, his voice cracked. If he kills you, I'll follow you into hell just to keep you safe there too. The raw honesty in his words stole my breath. Dante, I need you to understand something. He pulled me closer until we were pressed together, until I could feel his heart hammering against my chest. I've lived in darkness my entire adult life. I've made peace with being a monster. But these last 3 days with you, it's the closest I've ever come to feeling human again. His hand slid into my hair. I will not let Constantine take that away. I will not let him take you. Even if it means war? Especially then. He kissed my forehead, soft and lingering. I've been preparing for war since I was 19, but I've never had something worth fighting for until now. My phone buzzed on the counter. Then his did. Then mine again, insistent, urgent. We pulled apart. He reached his first, read the screen, and went absolutely still. What? I asked. He showed me the message. Unknown number. A photo attachment. I opened it and felt the world tilt. It was my mother. Standing in her kitchen. A red dot, laser sight, centered on her forehead. The text below read, "You have 2 hours to deliver the witness. Come alone." Dante's phone rang. He answered, and I watched his face turn to stone as he listened. Understood, he said flatly. Then hung up. What did they say? That was Constantine himself. His voice was hollow. He's not negotiating anymore. I'm going. Like hell you are. Dante was already on his phone, barking orders in a language I didn't recognize. Russian, maybe, or something older. Marco, I need eyes on the Sullivan residence. Now. Full perimeter. No, I don't care if... Just do it. Dante, that's my mother. I know. He ended the call, immediately dialed another number. Which is exactly why you're not going anywhere near her. He'll kill her. He won't. But something in his voice wavered. The first real uncertainty I'd heard from him. She's worth more alive. Leverage only works if the threat is real. I grabbed my jacket from the chair. And you and I both know he's already proven he'll kill to make a point. He caught my wrist. You walk into that trap. You die. Both of you. Then what's your alternative? I get her out first. Extraction team, 5 minutes. They'll have her somewhere safe before Constantine realizes you're moving and kills her anyway? I pulled free. You said it yourself. He's not negotiating. This isn't leverage anymore. It's punishment. For what? For you protecting me instead of handing me over like a good little mob boss who knows his place. The words landed like a slap. Dante's expression went cold. Is that what you think this is? Some territorial pissing match? Isn't it? This is about you refusing to understand that your life matters more than... He stopped. Turned away. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, more dangerous. You want the truth? Fine. Constantine doesn't just want you dead. He wants me broken. And the fastest way to break someone like me is to take away the only thing they've ever cared about that wasn't an obligation. My heart stopped. Dante. So no, you're not going. I don't care if I have to lock you in this apartment myself. You can't stop me. Watch me. We stared at each other. Two stubborn people who'd survived by never backing down, now trapped in an impossible situation where neither option led anywhere good. My phone buzzed. Another photo. My mother. Closer this time. The red dot now on her chest. Her eyes were wide, terrified, but she was trying to be brave. I knew that look. Had seen it my whole childhood whenever things got bad. When Dad left, when the money ran out, when we had to move again. She was trying to be brave for me, even though I wasn't there. The text read, 90 minutes. I have to go, I whispered. Then I'm coming with you. He said alone. I don't care what he said. Dante's hands framed my face, forcing me to look at him. You don't understand what men like Constantine do to people they want leverage over. The things he'll make you watch. The pain he'll make you feel. I've seen it. His voice broke. I've done it. The confession hung between us. To who? People who mattered to people I needed to control. His eyes were haunted. I told myself it was necessary, just business. But it never was. It was torture. And I was good at it because I'd learned to turn off the part of me that felt anything. What changed? You. His thumbs traced my cheekbones. You made me turn it back on, and now I can't. He pulled me against him, held me so tight I could barely breathe. I can't watch him do to you what I've done to others. I won't survive it. I pressed my face into his chest, felt his heart racing. Then help me save her. I am. By keeping you here. By making me live with knowing I let my mother die because I was too scared to face the consequences of surviving. He flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. But it's real. And I need you to trust me. I do trust you. I don't trust him. So don't. An idea was forming. Dangerous, probably stupid, but better than standing here arguing while the clock ran down. You said you could have men surrounding the meeting. Do it. But let me go in alone like he wants. Let him think he's won. And then what? Then you do what you do best. I held his gaze. You wait for the right moment, and you end this. Understanding dawned in his eyes. You want to use yourself as bait. I want to save my mother. If that means being bait, fine. You could die. I could die doing nothing too. I touched his face, felt the tension in his jaw. At least this way I choose how. He closed his eyes. For a long moment, he just stood there, holding me, breathing like each inhale hurt. Then, there's something I need to tell you first. The tone of his voice made my stomach drop. What? The man in the convenience store, the one who died. He opened his eyes and the pain in them was devastating. He wasn't just my associate. He was my brother. The world tilted. What? Half-brother. Different mothers. He worked for me, but he was family. The only family I had left. His voice was hollow. Constantine killed him because he knew it would hurt me. Because family is the only weapon that works against men like us. Dante? So when I say I'll burn the world down to keep you safe, I'm not being dramatic. I'm telling you that I've already lost everyone who mattered once. He kissed my forehead, soft and desperate. I won't lose you, too. My phone buzzed again. 60 minutes. The clock is ticking. Choose. I looked up at Dante and saw my own fear reflected back at me. Tell me your plan. I said quietly. All of it. And then we're going to save my mother and end this. Together? Together. He pulled me close one more time, pressed his lips to my temple. If anything happens to you, it won't. But if it does, his voice cracked. Know that these 3 days with you were worth more than 15 years of surviving. Then he let me go. And we started planning how to walk into hell. The warehouse smelled like rust and old blood. I stood in the center of the empty space, hands trembling despite my best efforts to appear calm. Moonlight filtered through broken windows high above, casting everything in shades of gray and shadow. Dante's voice crackled in the tiny earpiece he'd insisted I wear. I'm here, 15 feet to your left, behind the steel column. I didn't look, couldn't risk giving him away. Where are the others? I whispered. Positioned. Rooftops, exits, every sightline covered. A pause. You don't have to do this. Yes, I do. I know. His voice softened. You're braver than anyone I've ever known. Before I could respond, headlights cut through the darkness. A black SUV rolled through the warehouse entrance, smooth and predatory. It stopped 20 feet away. The engine died. Silence stretched. Then doors opened. Konstantin Volkov stepped out first. Tall, blonde, wearing a gray suit that probably cost more than my mother's house. His face was handsome in a cold way. Sharp cheekbones, pale eyes that held all the warmth of a frozen lake. 2 guards flanked him, and between them, they dragged my mother. Mom! The word ripped from my throat before I could stop it. She looked up, tears streaming down her face. Baby, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. They just came in and... Silence. Konstantin's voice was accented, controlled. He studied me like I was something mildly interesting under glass. So, this is the witness worth all this trouble. I forced myself to stand straighter. Let her go. Eventually. He smiled, and it was worse than his coldness. First, we talk. You tell me what you saw. Exact details. And then I decide if your testimony is worth the headache of keeping you both alive. I'll tell you whatever you want. Just don't hurt her. How touching. He crossed toward me slowly, hands in his pockets. Casual. Unconcerned. Do you know what I think? I think you're lying. I think you've already told your new protector everything. And I think this, he gestured around the warehouse, is a trap. My heart hammered. It's not. Then where is he? Constantine stopped 3 feet away. The great Dante Russo. Surely he wouldn't send his pet into danger alone. He doesn't know I'm here. Liar. The word was almost gentle. Then he moved, faster than I expected, and grabbed my throat. Not choking, just holding. A promise of violence kept on a leash. You're going to tell me where he is, Constantine said quietly. Or I'm going to hurt your mother in ways that will make you beg me to kill her. Touch her, and you die. Dante's voice cut through the warehouse, echoing from everywhere and nowhere. Constantine's grip tightened slightly. There he is. Show yourself, Russo, or I break her neck right now. You break her neck, and you lose your only leverage. Dante stepped from behind the column, gun drawn, aimed directly at Constantine's head. Let her go. This is between us. Is it? Constantine pulled me against him, using me as a shield. Because from where I'm standing, this is about you forgetting your place. My territory. My streets. You had no right to interfere. Your man killed my brother. Your brother stole from me. Constantine's voice was ice. $300,000. Did he not mention that before he died? I felt Dante hesitate. Felt the shift in the air. You're lying, Dante said, but there was doubt now. Am I? Ask yourself why he was at that convenience store at 2 a.m. Why he was nervous. Why he kept looking over his shoulder. Constantine laughed softly. He was running, Russo. From me. And you've started a war over a thief. Even if that's true, Dante's gun never wavered. You didn't have the right to kill him without coming to me first. Family business is family business. Not when he's my family. And this? Constantine's hand tightened on my throat. What is she? Another stray you've decided to protect? She's mine. The possessiveness in Dante's voice was absolute. And you just made the last mistake of your life. Everything happened at once. Dante fired, not at Constantine, but at the guard holding my mother. The man dropped, and my mother ran. Constantine shoved me hard. I hit the ground, pain exploding through my shoulder. Gunfire erupted from the rooftops. Dante's men. The second guard fell. Constantine dove for cover behind the SUV, pulling his own weapon. He fired 3 shots, wild, angry, and I heard Dante grunt. No! I scrambled up, saw Dante pressed against the column, hand to his side. Blood seeped between his fingers. Stay down, he shouted at me. But Constantine was already moving, using the chaos to circle around. I saw him raise his gun, saw the angle. Dante couldn't see him from where he was pinned. I didn't think. I ran. Threw myself at Constantine just as he pulled the trigger. The shot went wide, the recoil slamming through both of us. We hit the ground together and his elbow caught my temple. Pain exploded white behind my eyes. Then Dante was there. He pulled Constantine off me with brutal efficiency, slammed him against the SUV. The gun clattered away. You want a war? Dante's voice was quiet, deadly. You've got one. Wait, Constantine's composure cracked. We can negotiate. Territory, money, whatever you... I don't negotiate with men who threaten what's mine. Dante pressed the barrel of his gun against Constantine's forehead. Any last words? Constantine spat blood. Your brother deserved worse. Dante pulled the trigger. The sound echoed through the warehouse. Then silence. Dante dropped the gun and turned to me, eyes wild with fear and adrenaline. Are you hurt? I shook my head, though my temple throbbed and my hands wouldn't stop shaking. He pulled me against him, one hand cradling the back of my head, the other still bleeding into my shirt. You stupid, brave, impossible woman. You could have died. So could you. I'm not worth saving. Yes, you are. I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. You're worth everything. He kissed me then, desperate, claiming, tasting like violence and relief. When he pulled back, his forehead rested against mine. I love you, he whispered. I know it's too soon and too insane, and you probably don't. I love you too. He went very still. You do? Unfortunately. He laughed, a broken, beautiful sound. Why unfortunately? Because now I have to figure out how to love a man who just killed someone in front of me. His expression shuddered. I understand if you... I kissed him. Hard, until we were both breathless. I'm not going anywhere, I said against his lips. But we need to get you to a doctor. My mother first. We found her hiding behind a stack of crates, terrified but alive. The safe house was smaller than the apartment, quieter. My mother slept in the bedroom, finally calm after 2 hours of crying and questions I couldn't fully answer. Dante's personal doctor, a woman who asked no questions and carried her supplies in a leather bag that had seen too much use, had just finished stitching the bullet graze along his ribs. You're lucky, she'd said. Another inch and we'd be having a very different conversation. Luck. As if anything about the last 4 days had been lucky. Now we sat in the dim living room. Dante shirtless with fresh bandages wrapped around his torso. Me curled into the corner of the couch with a bag of frozen peas pressed against my temple. The silence between us felt heavy. Wrong. Say it, Dante finally said. Say what? Whatever you're thinking. Whatever's making you look at me like I'm a stranger. I lowered the frozen peas. I watched you kill a man tonight. Yes. Without hesitation. Yes. His voice was flat. Is that what you need to hear? That I'm a monster who kills without remorse? I need to hear the truth. He stood, winced at the movement, and walked to the window. His reflection in the glass looked haunted. The truth is, I've killed 21 men now. The truth is, I'll probably kill more before this life kills me. The truth is... He stopped. Started again. The truth is, I felt nothing when I pulled that trigger. Just relief that he couldn't hurt you anymore. Dante? No. He turned to face me. You said you wanted the truth, so here it is. I'm not a good man. I never will be. I can't undo what I've done, can't wash the blood off my hands no matter how hard I scrub. And tonight proved something I've known since the moment I met you. What? That loving you doesn't make me better. It just gives me something to lose. The words hung between us like broken glass. So what are you saying? My voice came out smaller than I wanted. That we can't do this? I'm saying you deserve better than a man who kills people and calls it protection. You deserve someone who doesn't have enemies. Someone who won't put your mother in danger just by existing in your life. He moved toward me slowly. You deserve normal. I don't want normal. You say that now? I say that because it's true. I stood, ignoring the throb in my head. Do you think I don't know what you are? Do you think I'm naive enough to believe you're suddenly going to become some reformed hero because we kissed a few times? Then what are you doing here? Choosing you. The words came out fierce. Choosing this, whatever the hell this is. Because maybe you're right. Maybe loving you doesn't make you better, but it makes me braver. And I'd rather be brave and terrified with you than safe and numb without you. He stared at me like I'd spoken a language he didn't understand. You can't mean that. Why not? Because? His voice cracked. Because I will ruin you. Everything I touch turns dark eventually. And you... He reached out, touched my face with devastating gentleness. You're the only light I've seen in 15 years. I can't be the one to put it out. You won't. You don't know that. Neither do you. I caught his hand, held it against my cheek. But I know this. I've spent my whole life playing it safe, being careful, not taking risks because risks lead to pain. And then I met you, this impossible, dangerous man who kills people and drinks expensive wine and looks at me like I'm worth starting wars over. And suddenly safe feels like dying slowly. This isn't safe either. No, but it's alive. I pulled his hand to my chest where my heart hammered. Feel that? That's what you do to me. Terror and hope and something so big I don't have words for it yet. His thumb traced the hollow of my throat. I love you, he whispered. So much it scares me. Good, be scared. I am too. I stepped closer until we were breathing the same air. But be scared with me, not away from me. He searched my face for a long moment. Then he kissed me, different from before. Slower, deeper, like he was trying to memorize the taste of hope before it disappeared. His hands settled on my waist, careful of his injury, careful of my bruises, and pulled me flush against him. I gasped at the contact, at the heat of his skin through my thin shirt. We shouldn't, he murmured against my mouth. Probably not. Your mother is in the next room. She's asleep. I'm hurt. You'll survive. He pulled back just enough to meet my eyes. Are you sure? About this? About me? No. Honesty felt important. I'm not sure about anything except that I want to find out where this goes. It might go nowhere good. Or it might go somewhere worth the risk. I touched his face, traced the scar through his eyebrow. Help me find out. Something in his expression broke open, vulnerable and raw. He lifted me carefully, mindful of his ribs, and carried me down the hall to the second bedroom. Later, tangled in sheets that smelled like lavender and safety, I traced the tattoo across his shoulder blade. A phoenix rising from flames, beautiful and terrible. When did you get this? I asked. The day I became what I am. His voice was quiet in the darkness, a reminder that everything I was died in that fire. And what rose from it? A monster. He turned to face me, and even in the dim light I could see the pain in his eyes. But with you, I almost believe I could be something else too. Like what? A man worth saving. I kissed him softly. You already are. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Once, twice, insistent. He grabbed it, read the screen, and went completely still. What? I asked. He showed me the message. From an unknown number. Constantine had a brother, and he just arrived in the city. Run while you still can. Below it, a photo. A man who looked exactly like Constantine, but harder, colder. Standing in front of the warehouse where we'd been just hours ago, examining his brother's body. Dante's hand tightened on the phone until I heard the screen crack. Dante! We're not done, he said quietly. This isn't over. Then what do we do? He looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes made my blood run cold. We finish it. Dawn came too fast and too bright. I woke to find Dante already dressed, standing at the window with his phone pressed to his ear. His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the edge underneath. I don't care what it costs. I want every piece of information on Alexei Volkov by noon. Where he's staying, who he's meeting, what he eats for breakfast, everything. A pause. And Marco? Get my mother relocated. Now. You have a mother? I sat up, pulling the sheet around me. He ended the call and turned. In the early light, he looked exhausted. She's in a nursing home upstate. Dementia. Doesn't remember who I am most days. He crossed to the bed, sat on the edge. But Alexei will find her anyway. Because that's what men like us do. We find the soft places and press until something breaks. So you're moving her. To a facility under a different name. New identity. Security. His jaw tightened. She won't understand why she can't see me anymore. But she'll be alive. The weight of what he was giving up settled over me. Dante. Don't. He touched my face, thumb tracing my cheekbone. I made my choice the moment I decided you were worth protecting. Everything else is just consequences. What about us? What about us? Are we consequences too? He leaned in, kissed me softly. You're the only thing that feels like a choice I actually got to make. Before I could respond, his phone rang again. He glanced at the screen and his expression went cold. Unknown number? I asked. No. He answered. What do you want, Alexei? I could hear the voice on the other end. Accented, measured, nothing like Constantine's arrogance. Mr. Russo, I believe we should talk. I have nothing to say to you. Not even about the woman you're currently protecting, the one my brother died trying to silence. Dante's hand tightened on the phone. She's off limits. Everything is negotiable, even vengeance. A pause. I'm at Bellini's, the restaurant on 5th. Come alone. Bring the girl. Let's end this like civilized men. Civilized men don't send photos of their dead brothers as threats. Civilized men also don't start wars over stolen money and wounded pride. Alexei's voice softened. My brother was reckless, emotional. He let this situation spiral because he couldn't separate business from ego. I'm not him. What are you proposing? Peace. Real peace. You keep your territory. I keep mine. The girl lives. Your organization stays intact. Another pause. But there is a price. There always is. You step down. Retire. Disappear. Whatever you want to call it. But you're out of the life. Completely. Dante's expression didn't change, but I saw his knuckles go white around the phone. And if I refuse, then I burn everything you've built to the ground, starting with everyone you care about. The threat wasn't angry. Just factual. You have 2 hours. Bellini's, noon. The line went dead. Dante sat motionless for a long moment. Then he stood, grabbed his jacket, and started checking his weapons with mechanical precision. You're actually considering this, I said. I'm considering my options. Which are what? Give up everything you've built or watch people die? Yes. He didn't look at me. Those are exactly my options. I got up, wrapped the sheet around me, and moved to stand in front of him. What do you want to do? Want doesn't matter. What matters is... What do you want, Dante? He finally looked at me, and the raw honesty in his eyes stole my breath. I want to walk away. I want to take you somewhere far from here and never look back. I want to wake up every morning without wondering who I'll have to kill to survive the day. His voice cracked. I want normal. With you. Even though I don't deserve it. Then take it. It's not that simple. Why not? Because men like me don't retire. We die or we're overthrown. There's no peaceful exit. So, make one. I grabbed his face, forced him to focus on me. You're not him. You're not your father or Constantine or anyone else who chose this life and got trapped in it. You can choose differently. And my people? The ones who depend on me? Promote someone. Marco. Someone you trust. I could see him thinking, calculating. Alexei doesn't want war. He said it himself. He wants stability. Give him that. Give yourself a chance at something more. He pulled me close, buried his face in my hair. You make it sound possible. Because it is, if you're brave enough to take it. Bellini's was empty except for Alexei Volkov and 2 guards at a corner table. Dante and I walked in together, his hand at the small of my back, steady and sure. Alexei stood as we approached. Up close, he was older than Constantine had been. 40, maybe. Gray at the temples. Eyes that had seen too much. Mr. Russo. Miss... He paused. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. You don't need to, Dante said flatly. What's your offer? Direct. I appreciate that. Alexei gestured to the empty chairs. Sit, please. We sat. Dante kept his hand on my knee under the table, anchoring or being anchored. I couldn't tell which. I've reviewed what happened, Alexei began. My brother overreached. He let a small matter become a war because he couldn't tolerate being challenged. He looked at me. You were in the wrong place, nothing more. Killing you serves no purpose except perpetuating violence. So you're offering peace, Dante said. I'm offering you freedom. Alexei slid a folder across the table. Signed documentation transferring your territories to Marco Santini, your second in command. Financial compensation for your exit. New identities for both of you if you want them. Clean slate. Dante opened the folder. Read in silence. And the cost? He finally asked. You disappear. Completely. No contact with your old organization. No returning if things get difficult. Alexei's gaze was steady. You become someone new. Both of you. Dante looked at me. I saw the question in his eyes. I nodded. He turned back to Alexei and said the words that would change everything. We accept. 3 months later, I woke in a small house overlooking the ocean. Dante, except he was Michael now, or so his papers said, was making coffee in the kitchen, the good kind that actually smelled like happiness. Morning, he called out. Morning. I padded into the kitchen, wrapped my arms around him from behind. How long until you stop looking over your shoulder? Ask me in another 3 months. I felt him relax into my touch. Felt the tension that had lived in his muscles for 15 years slowly unwinding. Do you regret it? I asked. Giving it all up? He turned in my arms, kissed me slowly. Every man who hurt you is gone. You're safe. I'm alive. And for the first time since I was 19, I get to choose what tomorrow looks like. He smiled, real, genuine, heartbreaking. How could I regret that? Because you gave up everything. No. He pulled me closer. I finally got everything that mattered. Outside, waves crashed against the shore. Somewhere far away, in a city we'd left behind, men still built empires on blood and fear. But here, in this small house with morning light streaming through the windows, we built something else. Something worth surviving for. Something like hope.